As of Tuesday, September 8th at 2:30, there were 716 delegates who completed the credentialing procedures. Our bylaws require a majority of the delegates who have completed credentialing procedures to be present for a quorum. Delegates and past presidents, on the left side of your screen, you will see the voting window. Please select present to be recognized as a delegate. The credentialing process is limited to only delegates and past presidents. Alternate delegates, we ask that you do not vote given your role here today. Delegates and past presidents, please make your selection now. The total number of delegates who have marked themselves present is 561. I move that the roll call of delegates hereby submitted be the official roll of the voting members of the 2020 General Assembly.
It is moved to adopt the report of the Credentials Committee. Is there any discussion? So the question is on the adoption of the report of the Credential Committees. Those in favor of the report, vote pro. For those that are opposed, press con. So the Credential Committee report is adopted. It is now time for the General Assembly to debate and vote on the proposed bylaw amendments and the resolutions that were discussed this morning. As a reminder, alternate delegates will not be able to speak or vote on the proposals. Delegates, past presidents, and alternate delegates can use the quick term to enter their intent to speak in the chat box. Be sure to hit the gold send icon to send your message into the queue. I will announce the order in which delegates speak. When you are called upon, raise your hand in Zoom. The raise hand icon again is located in the participant tab. Please raise your hand so that the production staff can enable your microphone and unmute yourself. Once the production staff has enabled your microphone, again, like I said, unmute your microphone and you'll be able to begin to speak. Once your turn to speak is over or your time runs out, the production team will mute your microphone and disable your video. As always, please state your name and provide the name of your state council or indicate if you're speaking on behalf of yourself. I now recognize Resolution Committee Chair Adam Johnston, who will provide an overview of the committee's report.
Mike,
Okay. So there's a point of order that has been brought forward. So I would call on Joanne Navarelli. If you can raise your hand.
Hi, this is Joanne Navaroli speaking for the Arizona Emergency Nurses Association. The results that you showed on the screen were for approving the consent agenda.
So what I'm being told is that the vote was correct. What the wording on the actual screen, though, was not correct. So you were not voting actually on the consent agenda. We have not got to that point
Okay,
yet.
just want to make sure we're not moving past the consent agenda. Thank you.
No, thanks for raising that up. All right, so Adam.
All right. So the Resolutions Committee met during our break and posted the Resolutions Committee report to the General Assembly section of the ENA website, as well as the info section on the Lumi panel on the left-hand side. Hopefully you've had a chance to review this. Prior to the consideration of each proposal, I intend to share a synopsis of the committee's report on that proposal, including any amendments. At this time, I move on behalf of the Resolutions Committee the consent agenda, which includes the following proposals. The consent agenda includes GA 20-03, the request for Emergency Nurses Organization to facilitate collaboration with Occupational Therapists Organization, GA 20-04, patient screening in the emergency department, GA 20-05, recognition of emergency clinical assistant technician, and GA 20-07, increasing community engagement through collaboration and recognition. As the consent agenda also includes against the adoption of GA 12-06, or GA 20-06, preparing nurses for care in the pre-hospital emergency EMS setting.
So you need to explain how to pull something off.
Is that in your, that's in your next script?
Okay.
Okay. And that is the motion of the consent agenda.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. So typically when we have the consent agenda, right? So
It's in the script, cut to Mike. Like, it's in your script on the teleprompter. It answers all that. We need to cut Mike.
So, thank you, Adam. At this time, we're going to consider the consent agenda. The consent agenda allows the Assembly to quickly approve any proposals that do not further need discussions. Any individual delegate may remove a proposal from the consent agenda. Removing a proposal will place it back into the normal agenda for debate and vote this afternoon. If you wish to remove any proposal from the consent agenda, type remove along with the proposal's number into the speaking queue. As items are removed, I will announce this, so there will be no further need for additional delegates to submit the request to remove the same proposal again. So we're going to take 30 seconds now to allow for items to be removed from the consent agenda.
Yep, so you'll announce.
All right, so proposal 6 will be removed. Proposal 3 and 7 also will be removed. So 20-05 will also be removed. All right. Okay, so the The only remaining item on the consent agenda is GA 20-04, patient screening in the emergency department. So the question is on the adoption of the consent agenda. Those in favor of adopting... Oh, 4 was pulled?
When was 4 pulled?
Okay, I'm being told that 4 was pulled as well. So we have no consent agenda to worry about. So, all right, awesome. All right, so we will begin with GA 20-01. And so this is the proposal amendment to the E&A bylaws. So, and just a reminder, as we kind of go through this process, there was, the team here was working super fast trying to get everything together. So there may be some grammatical errors, some editorial changes. That's not what we're voting on, right? What we're truly voting on are the resolve clauses of the resolutions as we kind of go through them. So just remember that, give us some little grace with that as we kind of go through this process, okay? We'll figure this all out as we kind of go along. So Adam, for the Resolutions Committee report on GA 20-01.
Thanks, Mike. The recommendation of the Resolutions Committee is to approve GA 20-01 as amended with the amendment that was included in the committee's published report. I'd like to take a moment to clarify what the amendment proposes. This morning, we discussed 20-01, a bylaws amendment that effectively changes 4 things: the election of officers by the board versus by the membership, appointment versus election of the Nominations and Elections Committee, term limits, and the handling of vacancies. Based on the conversation from the open reference hearings today, a vast majority of which revolved around the election of officers, we developed this amendment. While you can see the full details in the report, the ultimate impact of this amendment, if approved, would reinstate the member's right to elect its officers. The committee hopes that this amendment will allow the work that has been done over the last year and a half to move forward while honoring the request that the membership retain the power to directly elect its officers.
Thank you, Adam, for that report. So now it is moved to amend, as requested out of the committee, GA 20-01. Is there any discussion? All right. So the people that are popping up.
So they want to discuss whether or not to amend.
All right, so I have people that are popping up that want to have discussion on this. So again, I'll call on your name and your participant icon, raise your hand so that way you can be called on. So Dorothy Heidemann, you can unmute. We'll call you next, and then Sally Snow, and then Daniel Dionato, you're next in the queue. So Dorothy. Again, Dorothy, if you can raise your hand in the participants queue, so that way the production staff can unmute you. All right. Okay, and just as a reminder, we're only discussing the amendment from the committee at this point in time. So Sally Snow, recognize you. If you can go ahead and unmute.
Yes, thank you, Mike. I'm speaking against this amendment. I don't feel like we had near enough time to discuss the pros and cons of this bylaws amendment. The state of Texas had a very lengthy discussion last night. We were for part of it and against part of it. But we weren't able to make that argument this morning. And I will yield to the president of the Texas State Council for further discussion.
Okay. So the chair then recognizes Daniel Dianato, and then Michael Moon, if you can go and raise your hand. So Daniel.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Mike. My name is Dan Donato, speaking on behalf of the great state of Texas. There are portions of this bylaw amendment that we could support, and the modifications or amendments that were done to it help that support a little bit. However, we believe that the virtual platform just is not conducive to discussing this in great detail. We would move to table the bylaw amendment for discussion at the 2021 General Assembly meeting. Is that possible? And if it's not possible, then we would ask that people vote in the negative for this bylaw change.
Okay, thanks, Dan. So it is not possible to table this discussion at this time. So we'll continue through the discussion. So the chair now recognizes Chelsea Collins. Chelsea, if you can raise your hand and get in the queue.
Hi, Chelsea Collins here.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm voting for the amendment only because if it were to pass as a, if the bylaw were to pass, the amendment's closer to what we want it to be. Overall, I disagree with the bylaw change as a whole, and I think most people do. However, I'm voting yes, or I'm speaking on behalf of myself, would vote yes because I would much rather have the amendment changed to the voting members instead of board of directors should the bylaw amendment pass at all.
Okay. And then I'm going to call on Ron Kraus for the board.
Hello. So we heard what you discussed at the reference hearing and support the proposed amendment presented by the Resolutions Committee. We really look forward to continue to share more information to the membership and continue to present the best practices to make sure ENA is developing competencies for the board to ensure we are propelling into the future and putting our best foot forward. Appreciate your support.
Great. Thank you. All right. So then I would call on Dorothy Heidemann, Michael Moon, Michael Moon, if you can go and raise your hand, and Joanne Navarale as well. So Dorothy.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, if you can make sure that, Dorothy, if you're in a room with other people, that everybody else has their volume turned down.
From the state of Florida. I agree with the change that was made. However, other portions of this bylaws amendment are unacceptable, and the Florida delegation is against passing this bylaws change in toto.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So the chair now recognizes Adam Johnson.
Hi. I just want to clarify one thing on behalf of the Resolutions Committee. So the motion before you right now is the amendment. So what we are essentially doing as an assembly is deciding which version of the bylaws changes we are going to debate and vote about in a few minutes, maybe in about 5 to 10 minutes. So right now, all of the discussion should be focused on whether we should move forward talking about this amended version that the Resolutions Committee has proposed, or the version that we talked about earlier today, the original version of the changes. So right now, we're not making any decisions on whether we approve overall the changes in the bylaws. All that we're doing is deciding which of these two versions to move forward with. So for right now, the conversation should stay focused on that. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Adam, for that clarification. So I would call on Nick Chmielewski now, if you can raise your hand, please, so that way you can be called upon. All right, Nick, if
Hi,
you
can you hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Hi, Nick Shimiluski from the great state of Ohio, speaking on behalf of myself. To Chelsea's point, and I agree with Chelsea, I think it would be in all of our interest to vote yes on this amendment that is before us, even though I intend to vote no later on the resolution, because what is before, the bylaws amendment, because what is before us right now is much more benign than the way the bylaws change was originally written. So my intent is to vote yes on this proposal in front of us right now, and then no on the actual bylaws proposal later on. Thank you very much, and I asked others to vote the same.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. Michael Moon.
Hello, Michael Moon from the state of Texas, speaking on behalf of myself. I am asking that we please vote no for this, as well as the original bylaw amendment. This makes a significant difference in what we are doing, and because of the technology and the lack of ability to make amendments or motion to the proposals, I don't think that we're giving this adequate discussion. I am actually in favor of having the board decide the officers. That's the one piece I actually agree. Having served on the board, I think they have the best working knowledge of who should be in the role. But there are other questions that we weren't able to address. So I would just say at this point, I think it's premature. And since we can't make a motion to table it, I would ask that you just vote no for this as well as the original bylaw. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the chair now recognizes Joanne Navarelli, and then Anna Valdez, if you can go and raise your hand as well. So Joanna.
Hi, this is Joanne Navaroli speaking on behalf of the Arizona State Council, and we respectfully oppose the amendments, although we do appreciate the strong work of the Resolutions Committee. There are some incongruencies with the lines that are identified under Section 5 elections. Lines 530 to 537 says that it's overview, but in the original proposal, those lines are actually lines 563 to 583. And so that's incongruent right there. So we need to oppose this because that verbiage really goes to lines, and you didn't address the lines 522 to 535, which states that the board of directors.
Okay, and your time has expired. So the chair now recognizes Anna Valdez.
Hi, this is Anna Valdez from the state of California speaking on behalf of myself. I'd like to recommend that we accept these amendments as they're written so that we can move forward and have a greater debate about the final product. I realize that most people are not happy with this, even with the amendments, but I think there's value in us having the discussion so that next year, if this comes back General Assembly, there'll be understanding of what the Assembly felt about this particular bylaw amendment. And so I recommend the original was not going to make it. So I recommend that we accept this amendment and then have further discussion. I'll probably vote no as well, but at that point, but I'd like us to have further discussion that is not dealing with these issues necessarily.
All right, thank you. I call on Ellen Ruja and then Santana Olvera, if you can go and raise your hand. So Ellen.
Hi, this is Ellen Ruja. Sorry, I did try to remove myself, and somehow I'm still in there. I am in agreement with parts of the amendment only, and so I would say we're going to probably, and we're here in South Carolina, we have mixed feelings, but I would say myself, I will vote pro to this, and will vote con for the whole policy and bylaws.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so call on Santana Olvera and then Mary Ann Portello, if you can go and raise your hand.
Santana Olvera from the state of Texas, speaking on behalf of myself. I kind of tried to remove myself because I think someone else, Chelsea had made a point on it, but just reminding everybody, this is the motion for this amendment portion. I kind of get consensus it is probably not going to pass as a whole from most of the discussion, but on the odd chance it might, I would encourage those to actually vote yes for these amended changes. These are the changes that we were concerned about in case the whole bylaw happens to by some percentage do that. So, but yes, of course, to go ahead and have further discussion on next year for this, hopefully. So that would be my suggestion. Thank you all for everything so far today.
Okay, thank you. So I call on Marianne Portero and then Holly Potet, if you can go and raise your hand. So Marianne.
Hi, Marianne Portero from New York State. I'm speaking on behalf of the New York State delegation. We are in favor of what's in front of us right now, but there are portions of this bylaw amendment that we're not in favor of, and then specifically lines 46 through 49. We feel that still takes away the membership's right to elect officers and then also to have further discussion. We feel that this should be brought to a General Assembly where we are all in person and be able to discuss this further.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Susan Ebach, you have a point of order? Susan? All right, another one from point of order from Marie Wilson. Marie, if you can raise your hand so that way the production team here can unmute you. Okay, not getting them in the queue here. So Marianne Portero.
Mike, Marianne Portero from New York State. I already spoke, but can I add one other thing? A question is, who are the voting members? And this comes from our state delegation. Who are the voting members?
So voting members are the members that vote currently today in our elections.
Okay, so then it's all members.
Correct.
Of the association.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, and thank you for letting me speak again.
Okay. So Santana Overa.
Santana Olvera, State of Texas. I would like to call for a vote on this. I'd like to make a motion to call for a vote.
So due to our rules that we have right now, we can't do motions off the floor, so we can't call for a vote is what I'm being informed. But, right. Okay. Yeah, and so just a reminder, so we're only talking about the amendment right now. So if you don't want to talk about the actual amendment that is in front of you, then you can remove yourself from the queue and then we can get this going. So again, when we're going through these with the amendments is that we're only talking just about the amendment, not the overall resolution or in this case, the bylaws. So. Okay. Daniel Dionato, another point of order.
Hey, Mike, I was going to do the same. Point of order as I called the question. I think that several people have put in the request to call the question. So can we move to call the question?
Mm-hmm. Okay. 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 So hearing from the conversation that we've had so far off of this, I believe that there's no further discussion that's really needed on this amendment. So I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote off of this amendment. Again, we're voting for the amendment here. So those in favor of ending the debate, right? Oh yeah, so I want to call for a vote, right? So those in favor of ending debate, press pro. Those that are opposed to ending the debate on the amendment, press con. Right, so vote now. Just, right, then, okay, yeah. We go from debates closed and then we go to vote the amendment, right? All right, so the debate is now closed on the amendment here. So the question now is on the motion of the amendment. To vote in favor of the amendment, we're going to press from the committee, right? So we'll vote pro if you're in favor of the amendment and press con if you're not in favor of the amendment from the committee. So vote now.
The Lumi poll is going to create issues. So Lumi is currently saying that they have.
All right, so the proposal is adopted. So now we have discussion on Resolution GA 20-01, proposed amendments to the bylaws as amended. So it is now time for discussion on, again, the proposed bylaws to the resolution, proposed amendments to the bylaws as amended. So if you would like to discuss this, go ahead and enter yourself into the speaking queue. So
That needs to go back.
All right, so I see in the speaking queue now is Daniel Dionato. So if you can go and raise your hand, and then Alan Ruja as well, if you can go and raise your hand. So Daniel, when we can get you unmuted.
All right, can you hear me, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Again, my name is Dandy Donato, speaking on behalf of the great state of Texas. Again, we just cannot support, as a delegation from the state, we cannot support this amendment due to the fact that the virtual platform is just causing a lot of confusion as far as the voting, as well as we're just not able to do all the points of order and calls that we need to if we were in person in a General Assembly. So we would like to table this until next GA in 2021. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Marie Wilson. If you can go ahead and acknowledge yourself. Marie. All right. Marie, if you can go ahead and raise your hand there in the speaker's queue, so that way we can get you undone. And Alan Ruja. And then David Samuelson, if you can go ahead and raise your hand as well.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Alan.
No, I'm not
Yeah. Hey, Alan, we can hear you.
Hi, this is Ellen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Alan, we can hear you.
I can see my... We can't hear it here, so that's why this is Ellen Ruja from South Carolina. I'm opposed to this bylaw based on not just, I'm glad we passed the amendment. That is not just the issue here. The issue is underneath the nomination election committee will be appointed by the NA Board of Directors. Again, you're taking away the rights of the members to vote on even their regional aspect of who they think is qualified in their own states. So I really think that I cannot vote for this bylaw based on that. Being on the nominations committee myself previously, it is a pretty involved committee. And I understand that the board of directors may think that they're going to ensure the diverse group. I am not saying that everybody on the board would be like that. I pray that they are, but I'm not going to be able to allow the rights again from our voting members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. David Samuelson, and then Joanne Navarelli, if you can go ahead and raise your hand. So David. And David, are you there?
Let's try that again. David Samuelson from California State President. I will be honest that I am elected to the Nominations and Elections Committee, ending my 2-year term. I was also appointed by ENA leadership to
That's what I'm saying.
Not sure what that was about, but I support the amended bylaws based on the results of our committee's work. I am not on the board of directors. I am not anybody special. I am one guy who thinks that I want to try to do the best for our organization, and I would support the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Joanne Navarelli, and then Tammy Weldon, if you can go and raise your hand.
I'm unmuted. Hi, this is Joanne Navaroli, speaking on behalf of the Arizona State Council. And again, I am reiterating that our council respectfully opposes, even as amended. As I was trying to speak to the amendment earlier, it may not have come across, but what the resolutions committee put forward, lines 530 to 537, are actually in what was originally presented, line 563 to 583, and therefore does not address the issue that is on the table currently, that the board of directors appoints the nominations committees, and we oppose that, as well as taking away any voting rights of the members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anna Valdez.
Thank you. I have a question. In years past, when we had some of these bylaw amendments, there was a real push because of legal consequences. And my question is, are there any legal issues that require this to be addressed this year if we were to vote no on it and then carry this discussion forward to next year? Are there any legal ramifications for the organization that we need to be mindful of?
Yeah, thanks for that question. There are no legal implications by these bylaws needing to have to change during 2020. And then I'll call on Anne Marie Papa. Anne Marie, if you can raise your hand to be. Okay. Anne Marie, do we have you there? Okay, I'll call on Tammy Weldon. We'll see if we can get Anne Marie on. And then Sally Snow, if you can go and raise your hand as well. So Tammy. Okay, do I have Anne Marie or Tammy Weldon? All right, Stephen Hobbs, if you can go and raise your hand. So do we have Anne Marie or Tammy Weldon or Stephen Hobbs? Hey, Tammy, is that you? All right, Stephen Hobbs, do we have Stephen on?
Okay, am
Mike,
I
it's Sally Snow here.
here now?
Oh, Stephen,
Can you hear
Stephen, we got you there.
Okay, I think what just happened right there is a perfect example why those of us in Hawaii are completely opposed to this motion as it stands right now. I don't think 2/3 of the people participating have a clear understanding of what we're voting on. I know I'm looking at a fuzzy screen, unreadable screen in Zoom and kind of guessing about what the language is. Just in trying to raise my hand there, I had to do that like 5 times in order to get it. It kept saying mute and unmute. This is a really major change in our organization, and I think it deserves a lot more consideration and study by membership before we can agree to any changes like this. There are parts of it that we agree with completely. There's 1 or 2, such as the Elections and Nominations Committee, I'd like to see changed. For example, I personally would like to recommend maybe the state presidents appoint those people. But anyway, we would, Hawaii's opposed. We're con against this motion.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. So the total debate time has expired, but speakers do remain in the queue. So the question is on extending debate for an additional 5 minutes. Those in favor of the motion to extend debate for 5 minutes, please press pro. For those that are opposed, hit con. We'll vote. So debate is not extended for 5 minutes. So the question is now on the adoption of GA 20-01. So those in favor, press pro. Those opposed, press con. We're going to vote now. Again, you're voting on proposal GA 20-01. Press pro for you're in favor. Press con. As amended. That's right. So the proposal is not adopted. So next we'll move to GA 20-02, hemorrhage control, education in schools. So Adam.
Thanks, Mike. Again, based on the feedback during the open reference hearings today, GA-02, as was listed in the Resolutions Committee report, the Resolutions Committee recommends the adoption of this proposal as amended with the amendment that was presented in the report. So on behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move the amendment that is included in the report, GA 20-02.
So their amendment from the committee is before us now. So now we'll have discussion on the amendment, again, that is before you right now. So again, the discussion is only on the amendment that is before us. So if you'd like to have discussion on this amendment, go ahead and enter your name into the speaker's queue. Again, this is just for discussion on the amendments. Okay, so seeing nobody in the queue for the amendment, for the discussion. Oh, we have somebody that just popped up. All right, Karen Kopel, if you can go ahead and raise your hand so you can be acknowledged. Karen, are you there? And Terry Crowley, if you can go ahead and raise your hand then as well. Karen, do we have you there? Do we have a Karen or Terry?
This is Karen. Can you hear me?
There you go, Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Koppel from Washington State, speaking on behalf of myself, and I approve and agree with the amendments to this to make it all inclusive for all schools, not just high school. Good change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Stephen Hobbs, you have a point of order. Stephen, if you can go and raise your hand. Stephen, if you still want to speak, go ahead and raise your hand so that way we can call on you. Right. Okay, Terry Crowley. Okay, Jean Prell, if you can go ahead and raise your hand. Again, just remember that we're talking about the proposed amendments here.
Hi, this is Jean Prell. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jean, go ahead.
Woohoo! I think this is an excellent amendment to an already pretty great resolution, and I would encourage everyone to support it.
Okay, thank you. Stephen Hobbs, do we have you?
Yeah, again, I apologize. I keep saying I can't unmute myself because the host has muted me. Is it possible to at least read the amendment or something? None of us in Hawaii have any clue what we're voting on. It's unreadable on the screen.
Okay, and so on this, so just on this amendment, the change is we take out the word high, in front of school. So it just says schools instead of high school. Again, just remember all this was posted on the delegate website as well for you. So yeah, so the only change on this amendment is taking out the word high and adding an S essentially after school. So, all right, do we have Terry Crowley? And Kathy Fox, if you can go ahead and raise your hand. This is also on the Lumi resource page as well for you as well, so you can see this information.
I'm ready.
Okay, Kathy.
Kathy Fox from the Commonwealth of Virginia. I really do like the change that they made to this. I do want to say that even besides schools, Stop the Bleed instructors, we teach this everywhere. In our hospitals, to our environmental services techs, to even a secretary.
This is also on the Lumi resource page as well for you as well, so you can see this information.
I'm ready.
Okay, Kathy.
Kathy Fox from the Commonwealth of Virginia. I really like the changes they made to this. I do want to say that even besides schools, Stop the Bleed instructors, we teach this everywhere.
So Kathy, we heard you and then we heard you again, essentially saying that this is something that we teach everywhere. I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to add in there before all of a sudden we did a replay for some reason. You gotta love technology here. Okay, Kathy. Kathy, did you have anything else that you wanted to add? Okay, we're going to call Terry Crowley, and then Tabitha Sylvester, if you can go and raise your hand. So, Terry?
I'm here. I just can't raise my hand.
Before all of a sudden we did a replay for some reason. You gotta love technology here. Okay, Terry?
I'm here. Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yes, we can hear you, Terry.
Okay, sorry.
Kathy, did
Thank
you
you.
have anything else
Yes,
that you
I
wanted to
am
add?
for this amendment. I would just only add the public and private schools versus
Okay,
merely
we
taking
call
out
Terry Crowley, and then Tabitha
versus merely
Sylvester,
taking out the word
if you can
high
raise your
school.
hand. So, Terry?
So making it public and private schools so that both schools can be covered.
Before all of a sudden we did a replay. Gotta love technology here.
And that's
Okay, Terry? Yeah, so, and just a reminder, so the amendments that are before us, that's what we're discussing. So everything that we talked about this morning, the resolution committee came back, they made these amendments. So we cannot do any other wordsmithing as far as the words that are in these resolve clauses, essentially, that we're talking about right now. Okay, so Heather Lenciata, if you can go and raise your hand, and Chelsea Collins, if you can go and raise your hand as well. But Heather. So do we have Heather?
Yep, sorry, there was the delay in the button to unmute myself populating.
Sounds good.
So I just wanted to ask if the author was going to be given the opportunity to speak to how they feel about the amendments.
I mean, if the general authors that initially proposed the resolution want to put themselves in the speaker queue, then yes, they can talk.
Okay, but they're not going to be given an option otherwise unless they put themselves in the speaker queue.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yep. Okay. Do we have Chelsea Collins?
Hi, Chelsea Collins here from Colorado, speaking on behalf of myself and Colorado. I just want to say that we do support this change, and to the conversation of public versus private, even though we can't make those changes, to remind everybody, by keeping this very generic, the ENA can utilize that to apply to everything. When you throw in public and private and whatnot, then you end up losing like charter schools and other stuff. So by just labeling schools, you're fine and you're covering all your bases. So please remember that the generic components of resolutions do actually help the ENA staff. So we support the changes and we think that it's all inclusive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Andrea Berry, and then Brandon Gillis, if you can also raise your hand. I'll call on Andrea.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, so my name's Andrea Perry from California. Speaking on behalf of myself, I do support this amendment. However, as you said, we're only discussing what has been amended and further text cannot be changed. And while high was stricken in the proposed changes, it remains in the resolved text. So it's still talking about hemorrhage control education in high school. So it's not consistent. And so if that language cannot be modified so that the change is consistent throughout, I feel like it just causes some muddying. So it's not a true amendment. I see the intent was to strike the word high, but it was only done in half of the proposal. So I think that unless should not be approved as stands.
Okay, so just for clarification, so the amendment that I am looking at, so both resolve clause, both of those have the word high that is crossed out for both of those resolutions or for those resolve clause.
Posted on the website for us to view does not have it crossed out in the resolve sections.
I was just going to make a point of order. Sorry. I was going to just reiterate what Mike says, because looking at the website, it says it does have, you have your resolved text and your proposed changes. Sorry, this is Chelsea from Colorado. So you need to make sure you're looking at your proposed changes section of it, and it does have high crossed out in both resolved statements.
Right.
That's what I'm looking at. So what I have pulled up with my consideration of bylaws amendments proposal, when I get down there, it's only crossed out under proposed changes. So I don't know why I have something visible that's different than other people. So
and that's what we're talking about. Okay, Chelsea. So Chelsea, let me talk, please. So the proposed changes, that's what we're talking about. That is the amendment that we're discussing right now. So the resolved text, the top part, that was the original text. So the proposed changes, that's the amendment. That's what we're talking about right now. So are those two bottom resolve clauses under proposed changes?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Got it. Okay, I understand now. Never mind.
All right, no worries. All right, Brandon Gillis, and then Chris Powell, if you can go and raise your hand. Brandon, do we have you on? Brandon, we can hear your background noise. Can you? Chris Powell, do we have a Chris Powell? All right, so looking for either Brandon Gillis or Chris Powell. If you want to speak, raise your hand so that way the production team can unmute you on our side of it.
Hey, Mike, this is Brandon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay, great. Thanks. I just wanted, yes, this is Brandon Gillis from Louisiana, speaking on behalf of myself and the other authors. I would like to thank, first off, the committee for all of their work with the amendment. And all three of the authors, we agree on this proposed change. I think that it was a very good change. It was very wise to include all schools and make it a blanket statement. And I would not like to change it to public and private. Then it gets more narrow. So I kind of like the broad version much better. So thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. And Chris Powell.
Hello, Chris Powell from the state of Texas. I am for the changes by removing high school, and I'd like to call the vote. We are past our 10 minutes of time.
All right, thanks, Chris. Well, I actually see nobody else now in the speaker's queue. So, and just a reminder how we're doing from a timing perspective off of it is that the timer that is here is only going when we have somebody speaking. So, you know, just due to that delay of having somebody on, we're not counting the time. So we'll go ahead. So there's no further people in the speaker's queue. So we're going to go ahead and vote on the amendments now. So if you are in favor of the motion of the amendment, press pro. If you're opposed, press con. Please vote now. All right, so the amendment does pass. And so now for discussion is the resolution GA20-02, Hammock Control Education in Schools as amended. So if you would like to speak on this resolution as amended, please go ahead and put yourself in the speaking queue at this time. All right, so Barry Hudson.
So now we have,
Hey, Barry.
do you have yours back?
Hey, Barry, again, reminder, just if you're in a room with other people, make sure that they have their speakers turned all the way down, so that way you don't get that feedback off of those.
Is this someone you talk to?
So Barry, do we have you there? Okay. Well, and seeing no other people in the speaker's queue to speak, so it's time now to vote on GA20-02, Hammock Control Education in Schools as amended. For those in favor, press pro. Those opposed, press con. Please vote now. All right, so GA20-02 as amended is adopted. So the next proposal is Resolution GA20-03, Request for Emergency Nurses Association organization to facilitate collaboration with the occupational therapist organizations. Adam for resolution report.
Thanks, Mike. The Resolutions Committee recommends that this proposal be adopted as presented. We originally had it on the consent agenda, so the committee recommends that this proposal be adopted.
Thank you, Adam. So we are now open for discussion on GA 20-03, request for Emergency Nurses Association organization to facilitate collaboration with the Occupational Therapist Organization. If you would like to speak on this proposal, please enter yourself into the queue at this time. So Sharon Seitz, if you can please go ahead and raise your hand.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Sharon.
Hi. My name is Sharon Seitz, as I said, and I a delegate on behalf of the state of Pennsylvania and speaking on our state chapter. I started my career as an occupational therapist and then progressed to being an emergency room nurse. Our state council appreciates the well-written and supported resolution. However, we feel that trying to solidify the presence of OT in the ED setting would be very challenging in some hospital environments. Some hospitals don't even have OT staff available. The focus appears to be on fall prevention and safe driving. Fall prevention, as we all know, is everyone's responsibility in the healthcare setting. So the use of OT, although beneficial, is not just inclusive to their setting and their skill set. And lastly, driving programs are extremely difficult and very rare in the state of Pennsylvania and very difficult to coordinate through an emergency department setting. So we unfortunately cannot support the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Julie Rossi.
This is Julie Rossi from the state of California, speaking on behalf of myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm opposed to this resolution, similar to the previous speaker. I believe the narrowness of this resolution it doesn't take into account the other disciplines that could be beneficial for the individuals in the emergency department, physical therapy, social worker, home health, etc. I think it's just very narrow, and as an organization, work towards this needs to be broader. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So seeing no one else in the queue at this time, so the question is going to be on adoption of GA 20-03, request for Emergency Nurses Association organization to facilitate collaboration with the Occupational Therapist Organizations. For those that are in favor, please press pro. Those opposed, please press con. Please vote now. All right, so the proposal is not adopted. So the next proposal is Resolution GA 20-04, patient screening in the emergency department. So the resolution committee is now recognized for recommendation.
All right, thanks, Mike. The Resolutions Committee's recommendation on GA 20-04 is that the proposal be adopted as presented.
Okay, thanks, Adam. So now we're open for discussion on GA 20-04, patient screening in the emergency department. So I see Jean Pearl. If you can go ahead and raise your hand. Jean, do we have you there? All right, so not getting anything out of Jean. If anybody else wants to speak on this resolution, again, put yourself in the queue there. And Carla Brem. Is that Jean on the?
Oh, no, it's a slower hand. Hang on.
Jean, we have you, but we cannot make out your audio.
Can you hear me now?
Well, we can hear you, sort of. You kind of sound like a little alien, but we can try to make out what you're trying to tell us.
Okay, sorry about the technology glitches. Thanks to to my co-author Andy and to all of those who spoke in favor of this morning. There are just 3 things I would like to emphasize and reiterate. We're not asking for a large research study. We're asking for ENA to state an opinion, basically. And this is not saying that you shouldn't do any screening. It's asking that you make thoughtful decisions about what screening you require and where it's required. And this does apply to the entire emergency department visit, not just triage. I would remind you that we don't have evidence to support most of what we are currently required or requesting people to do in terms of screening. But we do have evidence showing that some screens are unreliable in the emergency department, and yet they are being performed anyway. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jane. And Carla Brem.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Carla.
Hi, I just wanted to speak in support of this. I think it's such a timely and a long time needed intervention. So many of us have to spend so much time in triage doing screenings, which really in the moment are not needed as a component of triage. As we know, triage is a sorting process. It is not something in which we should be spending so much time deciding all of these various interventions that should be screened for. While important, we need to focus on assigning the person to the right acuity and then getting the care as soon as possible. And we can do those screenings later on in the stay or while they're admitted. So thank you, Jean and Andy and team, for authoring this. I fully support it and I recommend everybody else supports it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So seeing nobody else in the queue, so the question is on the adoption of GA 20-04, patient screening in the emergency department. Those in favor, press pro. Those opposed, press con. Please vote now. All right, so the proposal is adopted. So at this time, we are going to take a 10-minute break. So everyone stretch out. Again, remember to stay logged into your system, but we will be back in about 10 minutes here to start back up with the rest of our proposals. All right, so we'll see you in 10 minutes. Awesome, everybody, welcome back. So I just want to do a quick reminder on how you can get some technical support. So on your left-hand side of your screen, if you scroll down to the live or to the technical support, if you scroll down there under those resources there's a live chat. So if you're having any issues at all with a platform and you need some technical support, just go log into that, and that way it'll connect you over with our technical team and they can help you out. So welcome back. Like I said, we're going to talk about 20-05, recognition of emergency clinical assistants / technicians. So I'll turn it over to Adam for the recommendations from the committee.
Thanks, Mike. Based on the discussions during the open reference hearings, the Resolutions Committee recommends that this proposal be adopted as presented.
Great. So now we're open for discussion on 20-05, recognition of emergency clinical assistant / technician. So if you would like to speak on this, please go ahead and enter yourself into the queue so we can get you called upon. Again, this is 20-05, recognition of emergency clinical assistants / technicians. And Sally Snow. Call on Sally Snow and Lisa Lysel, if you can go ahead and raise your hand as well. Sally, do we have you there? Sally, it still shows that you're muted on our side. So do we have Lisa available? Hey, Lisa, are you there?
This is Lisa Lyle. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, this is Lisa Lyle speaking on behalf of Maryland State Council. We are opposed to this resolution as written. We would suggest that instead of isolating a single role of the ED tech, that an ED team day approach be taken so that we are not singling out one role when it is truly a team of individuals that come together to help support the ED nursing role. So we can't support it as written, and we would recommend perhaps a resolution proposal next year that is inclusive of the entire ED team.
Okay, thank you. Sally Snow.
I'm here. Sorry, I was trying my best to unmute. I would love to speak in favor of this amendment, of this resolution, except that we feel that it's not inclusive enough. If we are focused on the title emergency clinical assistant, we could leave out other unlicensed assistive personnel that we could include if it were more broadly titled. So I can support it if that wording is changed. Thank you.
Okay, and Julie Rossi. Julie, if you can go and raise your hand.
Hi, this is Julie Rossi. Speaking on behalf of myself from the state of California, I would agree with the other speakers. This is very, again, narrow-minded. We have a great deal, a number of other team members that are part of the emergency department. And without that inclusivity, I'm opposed to this amendment. I also believe that we are a team, and the current title is Emergency Nurses Week. So do we change that as well? So I would be opposed to this unless it can be changed, something similar to what the other speakers have mentioned.
Okay, thank you. I will call on Ryan Oglesby for the board to speak. Ryan.
Thanks, Mike. The board is in support of this proposal in light of it does not specifically exclude other members of the care team. We feel like it can be operationalized as such that all emergency care team members would be included in this proposal. Thanks, Mike.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. So seeing no one else in the speaker queue, so the question is on the adoption of GA 20-05, recognition of the emergency clinical assistant technician. For those in favor, press pro. For those that are opposed, press con. Please vote now. So the proposal is not adopted. So the next proposal is Resolution GA 20-06, preparing nurses for care in the pre-hospital emergency EMS setting. So we are now, so let me turn it over to Adam for the Resolution Committee report.
Thanks, Mike. Again, based on the discussion during the open reference hearings today, the recommendation from the Resolutions Committee on GA 20-06 is that it not be adopted. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to call on, excuse me, I'm going to call on Patty Kuntz-Howard to speak on behalf of the board on this resolution. So Patty.
Thank you, Mike. The board does not support this as it is proposed based upon exceeding our scope.
Okay, thanks, Patty. So again, the discussion is open on 20-06, preparing nurses for care in the pre-hospital emergency in the EMS setting. Again, if you would like to speak on this proposal, please enter yourself into the queue. All right, and I see Greg Zanone. Gregory, if you're there,
Hello.
you can. Hey, go ahead.
Hey, how are you? All right, so quickly, according to the 2017 edition of the ENA Nursing Scope and Standards of Practice, ENA states that pre-hospital nursing is within the scope of practice of an emergency nurse. Thus, ENA has taken responsibility for establishing the standards of practice. Second, paramedicine is no longer a technical certification, but has developed itself as an independent profession. Nurses are not paramedics, and paramedics do not own the pre-hospital care setting, just as nurses don't own the in-hospital care setting. Healthcare providers often have overlapping roles and shared skill sets. This has been recognized in research as acceptable and necessary. That's part of the point of the resolution, to clearly identify the role of a nurse in the pre-hospital setting and to reinforce the boards of nursing as the definitive licensing agency for nurses. As paramedics transition to providing healthcare in patients' homes via mobile integrated health, we don't require that they obtain nursing licenses, nor should we. This is another pre-hospital area where nurses and paramedics can coexist. From a professional standpoint, this is an issue that is important to the very core of nursing. Allowing outside agencies to determine the licensing requirements for registered nurses undermines the authority of the boards of nursing and diminishes ideas which are foundational to the concept of a truly independent profession. That's all. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. And Mary Van Hoy and Carla Brem, if you can go and raise your hand so you can be called. And I will call on Mary Van Hoy first. So Mary, you're unmuted on us, so. And that looks like you muted yourself here. You can make sure that your computer is unmuted. We'll see if we can figure that out. Carla Brem.
Hi, this is Carla. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Carla.
Hi, I'm Carla Brim from Washington State. I would just like to call out that I am glad that the board expressed that this is really beyond our scope. We need to worry about the emergency services, and there is the Transport Nurse Society that should be talking about the out of facility requirements. And I would also like to call out that this is at the cost of about $25,000 to the organization. I am an advanced practice clinical nurse specialist. And the fourth resolve, the one that starts on line 34, talks about entry-level competence. And currently, clinical nurse specialists do not have a certification. So I would support that we spend that money on getting the CNSs who work within the ED certification opportunities over spending our resources to inject ourselves into the pre-hospital area while there's already experts out there that can tell us what the competence level should be and share that with us when we want to work in that area. I'm all for collaboration, but I think we should let them own that practice.
Okay, and your time has expired there. Thank you. So Mary Van Hoy, do we have you back up and going? Deborah Skeen, if you can go ahead and raise your hand, and then Anna Valdez as well, if you can go ahead and raise your hand. So Mary, do we have you? All right, so Deborah Skeen. Deborah, do we have you there?
Hi, this is Debbie. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Yeah, Deborah Skeen, I'm speaking on on behalf of myself from Colorado, I would just like to say that we are concerned that there are unexpected situations where emergency nurses across the country frequently find themselves in the back of an ambulance. And that really it's important that ENA is at the table. So ASTNA may be covering, playing a role in the development of position statements and guidance for nurses in the pre-hospital setting. But we believe it would be really a serious mistake for ENA not to be at the table. So I still support this resolution. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Anna Valdez and then Chelsea Collins, if you can go and raise your hand. So Anna. So Anna, do we have you there? All right, Chelsea Collins, do we have Chelsea there? So do I have
Hi, this is Chelsea.
Hey, Chelsea,
Sorry,
go ahead.
I just popped up. So Chelsea Collins speaking on behalf of myself and Colorado to build on what Debbie was saying. This summer, I spent part of my clinical rotation at Johns Hopkins working with their Lifeline hospital. Hi, any Johns Hopkins people. Anyway, I wanted to share that Johns Hopkins Lifeline and flight team does utilize nurses that are not flight trained in their flight team when they have a particular instance where there is a patient that their flight team would not utilize. For example, if a PICU patient came along, they bring nurses onto their helicopter to manage the patient that would be better at managing that particular patient. So in this instance that pre-hospital and stuff is set up, yes, you might work in a facility that has a system already set up, but there are so many areas in the United States that don't necessarily have that set up. So I agree completely and reiterate what Debbie says, that we need to be at least at the table when representing this setup.
Okay. Thank you. Anna Valdez, do we have you up and going? All right, and Charlene Stab, if you can go ahead and raise your hand. And Anna, we're still showing that you're muted on our side. All right. So Charlene Stab, if you can go ahead and raise your hand. So Anna, if you want, so this is going to be last call for Anna Valdez here. If you want to speak, if you can go and make sure that you're unmuted. All right, and Charlene Stab, if you want to speak, Charlene, go ahead and make sure that you raise your hand. So
Hi,
that way.
This is Anna Valdez. I finally got unmuted on your side. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Anna.
All right, Anna Valdez from California speaking on behalf of myself. I hear exactly what my colleagues have said. I worked several years in pre-hospital as a nurse, not as a paramedic, and I do agree that education and toolkits are really important, but I have to speak in opposed to this because the last three resolves are really problematic. The way in which the pre-hospital system works is that it is often designated and regulated by county. I oversaw a county EMS system. The county specifically in California sets the rules, regulations, and scope. And in terms of who can function within that system. So it would be that, I think that's what Patty means when she says this would be out of the scope of what ENA can do. I think that we can certainly work with ASTNA to be able, and other other organizations to develop education tools, competencies, things like that. But when it comes to scope, it's just regulated different in every state.
Okay, thank you. And Benjamin Coe, if you can go and raise your hand so we can call on you.
I believe I'm already unmuted.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay. I am Benjamin Coe from Missouri, speaking on behalf of myself. Speaking as someone who entered emergency nursing prior to becoming a paramedic and working both.
Oh, Benjamin, we've lost your audio there. Benjamin, are you there still with us?
What are you doing?
Benjamin, are you there?
I think I'm back now. It said that I was muted by the host. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Speaking as someone who works both positions as both an ER nurse and a paramedic, and as a member of the EMS Advisory Council, I can actually say that this is something that I think is very useful to our organization. The National Registry of EMTs maintains a national standard for all paramedics across the country. This would be no different, in my opinion, but from the ENA perspective, of providing a national standard that emergency nurses working in the field would be trained to. I think it is a wonderful advancement for our association. And I yield.
Okay, thank you. So Kay Eller Bletcher, I see your name there. If you can go and raise your hand. And I'm going to last call for Charlene Stab.
This is Charlene. I'm on.
Okay.
There is some issues that I made it. Thank you.
Yep.
With all due respect, I really am appreciative of the board recognizing this is really out of the scope. ASNA is the professional organization for air and surface. They have the core curriculum. This is where the professional level goes. Additionally, there are regulatory agencies that look at those specific core curriculums as being required for certification. But drilling down at the state level, there are a variety of different organizations that regulate the practice, and that is state by state. And I think that's really the key point here, to look at that. Education's good, there's nothing wrong with it, but there are several other agencies, and ASNA is the professional organization for giving guidance on air and surface in the pre-hospital setting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Kayla. Kay, do we have you there?
Having a little trouble with my speakers.
Okay, it's okay. We can hear you.
Mike, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. Hey, Kay, we can hear you. Go ahead. How about somebody's trying to call her to say, hey, we can hear you?
No idea if anybody's hearing me right now. I got a text that says I am on. This whole topic has been brought up so many times at ENA over the years. I have been a pre-hospital nurse in Pennsylvania, and I've been an ENA member. I think Kathy Robinson could address all your issues also. We are in a dilemma because many states have different guiding associations. My guiding association when I am a pre-hospital registered nurse is the Department of Health. I need to follow their guidelines. However, the Board of Nursing, if I do something egregious or neglectful, can remove my license at the request of the Department of EMS and the Office of EMS. It's a very convoluted process in every individual state. And since I wasn't sure if I was on or not, I'm from Pennsylvania, and this topic was brought up to the General Assembly when Peg McNaughton was president, because she pulled us aside and gave us some wise words and said, follow your state guidelines. So I have to be opposed to this because I do think we operate in every state very differently as registered nurses and as pre-hospital nurses. And I am also a nationally registered EMT paramedic, which I did just to cover me in case I moved. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you. So seeing no one else in the speaking queue, the question is on the adoption of GA 20-06, preparing nurses for care in the pre-hospital/EMS setting. So those in favor, press pro. Those opposed, press con. Please vote now. So the proposal is not adopted. The next proposal is Resolution GA 20-07, increasing community engagement through collaboration and recognition. So the committee is now recognized for its recommendation. Adam.
Thanks, Mike. The Resolutions Committee recommendation on GA 20-07 is that the resolution be adopted as presented.
So now we are open the floor for discussion on GA 20-07, increasing community engagement through collaboration and recognition. If you would like to speak for this resolution, enter yourself into the speaker's queue. And so Shannon Kane, if you can go and raise your hand, and then Thelma Kuska, if you can go raise your hand as well. And Shannon, when we get to you, we can have you speak.
The intent of this resolution is to promote support for collaboration of ideas around injury prevention and volunteer work in the community. Many of you already do this in the community. However, there's so much opportunity for us to share our ideas. Although our communities may vary across the world, we have great ideas that we can share and adopt. National ENA should provide us with a platform in which we can share these ideas and encourage one another to increase engagement in the community. I encourage you to think about this resolution as an opportunity for us to increase and promote engagement and community connection. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Shannon. So I'm going to call on Kristen Klein, who will be speaking for the board on this resolution. So Kristen.
Thank you, Mike. The board is in favor of this resolution as it does align with our strategic goals and vision as an association.
Thanks, Kristen. So Thelma Kuska, if you can go and unmute yourself, and then Michael Moon, if you can go and raise your hand as well, and then Charlene Drylou as well, if you can go and raise your hand. But speaking up next is Thelma.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Thelma.
Okay, Thelma Kuska, delegate from Illinois. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. For those of you who know me, I live and breathe injury prevention and community outreach, even now in my old age. So I am in favor of Resolution 20-07. I did speak with the author last night, and I was impressed with how she presented the topic to me. We do have available resources, the IQSIP toolkit for the IQSIP chairs, our position statements, as well as resources from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and Safe Kids, to name a few. The state councils, please not forget that we do have IQSIP chairs, and then we have to include them in the process. And there is also an award, the Barbara Foley Award for Injury Prevention, for those who do exemplary work. I wish to call for a vote, and thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. And so continuing on with the discussion, Michael Moon, and then Charlene, if you can go and make sure that you have raised your hand, and then Ellen Ancampera as well. So Mr. Moon, or Dr. Moon, I should say.
Thank you. Michael Moon from the state of Texas. I totally support the idea of getting the information out there about volunteer opportunities and collaboration. I guess I'm just somewhat confused what we are asking from ENA because we already have our social media sites. We have ENA Connect. We have the website. So I guess where I'm struggling with this resolution is what do you want ENA to do besides promote? Because we have a lot of venues already available, and maybe that's it. Maybe we just need to advertise that these venues are available and for use by the members. So it's really more of a statement. I am certainly not opposed to doing this. I think the more we do, the better. I'm just not sure what's being asked of ENA.
Okay, thank you. Charlene? And then so make sure, Ellie, that you've raised your hand, and then also Kyle Smith, if you can go and raise your hand. So, but next up is Charlene.
Hi, this is Charlene Draylu, Rhode Island State Council, speaking on behalf of the state. We applaud that the authors seek to connect the emergency department nurses with the community. ED nurses provide unbiased care to patients when they are at their worst. They are respected members of their community. In these times of questions of diversity and inclusivity, ED nurses are in a prime position to partner with the community to influence well health and education. Patients have not wholeheartedly embraced returning to healthcare, resulting in delayed diagnosis and lack of immunization in children. This can result in an unnecessary emergency needs. ED nurses are positioned to provide community education on the benefits of well health and prevent the ED nurse from being that person that always puts out the fire, instead being the person who prevents it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Ellie, if you can go ahead and unmute, you'll be next up, and then Carla Bram, if you can go raise your hand as well. So Ellie.
I'm on, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. I like the intent of what the authors are trying to convey, but I don't think that ENA can do much more than they're already doing. Thelma has listed all the wonderful things that ENA has provided for injury prevention connection, and Michael does the same. I would say if they're looking for more resources in the community, to go to the community itself, talk to your schools, talk to your PTAs, see what you could do to get in there. Also, we do a lot of safety in car seats, things of that sort. So I'm not sure what their intent is, and I don't think the resolution is necessary.
Okay. Kyle Smith, if you can go and unmute yourself, you'll be next up. And then Matt Powers, if you can go ahead and raise your hand as well. So Kyle.
Hey, this is Kyle Smith from the state of North Carolina, the great state of North Carolina, talking for myself. Just wanted to speak again in favor of this resolution on top of what has already been said about the great opportunity that ENA has to highlight community service work and to serve as a hub for collaboration for our members and really sort of bring some greater focus on community service within the organization. I just wanted to emphasize, I think that this is a great opportunity to get greater involvement in our organization from the emerging professional section of our membership. I think a lot of emerging professionals look for community service with their organizational involvement. So I think if ENA can really highlight community service work, we could really pull in some additional membership.
Yep. Thank you. Carla Bram, if you can go and unmute, and then Amy Porcelli, if you can go and raise your hand as well. But Carla.
Hi, this is Carla Brim. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Carla.
Hi, Carla Brim from Washington State, speaking on behalf of the State Council. We are opposed to this. We feel that being a part of a community, we all should be connected to our community and should seek opportunities to volunteer. However, that does not mean that we should necessarily get an award for it or recognition. As many of the people have spoke prior to me, we do have resources. We have Connect, we have our profile. Maybe we should ask ENA to put a spot on there where we have hours in our community, if that's what the authors are seeking. However, it's not real clear to me. It does not say that it's specifically around injury prevention, even that's what people are saying. I don't see that in one of the resolved. And there are lots of injury prevention opportunities out there in your community. So I encourage you to volunteer, but it doesn't need to necessarily come with a recognition or reward from ENA. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Matt Powers, you're up next, and then Lauren Plain, if you can go ahead and raise your hand as well. Matt.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. You can all hear me?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
All right, very good. Matt Powers, past president and delegate from California. Going back to also, I agree with Dr. Moon as well, that ENA has over the years in my tenure on the board have put a lot of effort and brought back a lot of the injury prevention. The one thing that we do have on our website is our injury prevention or community injury prevention toolkit is another resource that's out there. I really applaud the authors on writing this resolution. Just would like to see more specifics that we don't have that's written into the resolved areas. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. All right, Amy, if you can go and unmute yourself, and then also, so Lauren Plain, you should have your hand raised, and then Chelsea Collins as well. So Amy, go ahead.
All right, doing a tech test. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. I'm going to try not to yell because I'm on a little microphone, and you guys know that I'm loud. So I'm trying my best to come through okay. I really want to say thank you to Thelma and Kyle. They brought up some really great points here. I think, especially concerning what other people are saying, that they're unsure what this is asking for. There are a lot of resources that ENA has, but there's a disconnect somewhere where we're not really operationalizing them well enough for those who want to get more involved. And again, the title of Collaborate and Recognize, I think this is a fabulous title that we should be calling forward and recognizing all the work we're doing with our community. We know in the ER that our patients represent our community, and we are the face of their community in the world of medicine. So I know that they want this resolution to represent the strategic vision of ENA, but I'm definitely voting for.
All right, thanks, Amy. Your time is up. So next up will be Lauren Plain and Karen Hartvigens. If you can go and raise your hand. So Lauren.
Hi, thank you, Mike. Lauren Plain from Virginia, speaking on behalf of myself and co-authored this with Shannon. Just a point of clarification, yes, this is in our strategic plan, but we felt it wasn't operationalized enough. We have Connect, but unless you're frequently posting what you're doing, if you follow Connect frequently, what you post quickly drops to the bottom as others post. And so having what we were honestly looking for, not necessarily generating more ideas on volunteering, but a place that we could actually post where we are volunteering and what we're doing to better not only reach out to our members who may not be on social media, but give ideas to others on what you can do to better connect with your community would certainly help our engagement. I hope that's a helpful point of clarification. And of course, happy to take other questions as we go. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Heather Lenciata, you had a point of order. Heather? Heather, if you can go and raise your hand. Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Heather.
Okay, so I just want to, I guess, either a point of clarification or a point of order. I was under the impression that Thelma had called to question.
Yes.
So, does that mean we'll still be having debate?
Yeah, so with our rules that were adopted at the beginning, so it's a 10-minute debate clock that's going on right now. And then after, if there's still people in the queue, though, We'll go for vote if we want to extend that debate, which we have 1 minute and 30 seconds left of the debate clock. So yeah. But
Even if someone calls the question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, and the reason for that is because there's no motions from the floor due to the rules that we have for this General Assembly as well. So, right. So next up would be Chelsea Collins and then John Fraley, if you can go ahead and raise your hand as well. So Chelsea.
Chelsea Collins speaking on behalf of myself from Colorado. I just wanted to go ahead and commend Lauren and Shannon for bringing this forward. I get that people are concerned about why do we need recognition and whatnot, but I want to remind you that on the About ENA page, it mentions that we have a spirit of philanthropy, which allows the advancement of the profession of the emergency nurses and improves the lives of our patients throughout the world. That doesn't include just within the hospital. Also, we place the highest value on our members for their contributions to the care of the patients and their families. So just to I get that some people are struggling with the fact that we want to stay within the hospital setting, but we need to recognize that the community involvement is a huge part of how we make some changes and how we improve our patients' lives. They're not just a patient within the hospital setting, they're a patient throughout their community, and their community matters. And why not recognize our members for doing some of the phenomenal work that they're doing? Not that we need that recognition, but why not do it because we can? Thank you.
Okay, and John Fraley, if you can go ahead and.
Hi, this is John speaking on behalf of Arizona. We're all for volunteering and helping out. We think it's great. I just personally feel like this is going to become the Facebook of the ENA, and I'm volunteering in Greece, and I'm over here in Japan, and I'm on the moon, and everyone's helping everybody everywhere. And we all already help people. So I think if we have a lot of extra time, we should spend it in legislative stuff, government affairs, and help fix the healthcare system, and then we won't have to volunteer so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So the total debate time has expired, but speakers do remain in the queue. So the question is on extending debate for an additional 5 minutes. Those in favor of the motion to extend debate for 5 minutes, press pro. Those opposed, press con. Please vote now. All right, so debate is not extended for 5 minutes. So now, the question is on the adoption of GA 20-07, increasing community engagement through collaboration and recognition. For those in favor, press pro. Those opposed, press con. Please vote now. So the resolution is not adopted. So the next proposal is Resolution GA 20-08, advocating for standardized safety and well-being of ER nurses. So I recognize Adam for the resolution report.
Thanks, Mike. The Resolutions Committee recommendation on this proposal is that it be adopted with an amendment, and that is the amendment that was included in the Resolutions Committee report, Amendment GA 20-08. And just for clarity's sake, the amendment that will be up on the screen is to strike the second resolved clause. Thank you.
All right, so now we're open for discussion on just the amendment. Again, the amendment is just about striking out that second resolve clause that is brought before us. So if you would like to discuss the amendment, again, which is just striking out that second resolve clause, please enter yourself into the speaker's queue. Chelsea Collins, I see your name, so please go ahead and raise your hand.
Hi, Chelsea Collins speaking on behalf of the authors as the main author here. I think everyone agrees that the first resolve is solid and would love to see this pass. So based on the Resolution Committee's recommendation, we support the amendment on the chance that it's half or nothing. But I do want to take a moment to speak to the second resolve. I want to take a moment to highlight that when you write a piece of work that you get stuck with verbiage, and sometimes, and unfortunately, we couldn't come up with better verbiage until the deadline to recommend amendments. I also want to highlight that it wasn't just COVID or pandemic related. Think about all of the work that we do with assault against healthcare workers. When a patient threw me across the room, my charge nurse and my house supervisor supported me in pressing charges, but the hospital did not. I did not know what my rights and resources were, and ultimately I had to hire my own lawyer who made 10 times more an hour than I did, just to be able to find and advocate for myself. This is in a state where it is a felony to assault a healthcare worker. By compiling resources and implications of what the laws mean, ENA can help advocate for the other platform changes they hope to see in areas such as violence behind healthcare workers. Even if this resolved is removed, I hope the ENA staff take this into consideration in relation to providing resources. And while I love and appreciate Dina's recommendation of going to NSO, not every nurse has access to that. And however we can partner with them and ASAP in order to provide and develop these resources would be preferred by the authors. So no, we don't support this resolve specific.
All right, Chelsea, thanks for that. Seeing nobody else in the queue to speak on the amendment, which is just striking out that second resolve clause, we will vote on the amendment. So those in favor of the amendment, press pro. Those that are opposed to the amendment, please press con. Please vote no. So the amendment does pass. So now we're up for discussion on the amended GA 20-08, advocating for standardized safety and well-being of ER nurses as amended. So if you would like to have discussion on this resolution as amended, please enter yourself into the speaking queue. Again, this is for discussion on 20-08, advocating for standardized safety and well-being of ER nurses as amended. All right, see Sally Snow, if you can go and raise your hand, and then Cheryl Marcel, if you can go and raise your hand as well. I'll call on Sally.
Thank you, Michael. Sally Snow from the great state of Texas. I'm speaking in favor of this resolution. I feel like this is kind of a no-brainer because if emergency nurses and the Emergency Nurses Association don't stand up for our safety and well-being. Who will? So please, let's support this. Thank you.
All right, and Cheryl Marcel.
This is Cheryl Marcel from New York State, and I am pro on this, and I would just like to say short and sweet, if not ENA, then who?
Right, I see no one else in the speaker's queue. All right, so it is now time to vote on 20-08, advocating for standardized safety and well-being of ER nurses as amended. If you're in favor, please press pro. If you're opposed, press con. Please vote now. So GA 20-08 is adopted. So I would like to thank everyone for your participation and valuable insight throughout this year's virtual General Assembly. As I've said many times, and all that you know me so well, emergency nurses adapt just about everything. And so we knew that running a virtual GA wasn't going to be a problem, right? Yeah, okay, fine. We might have had a little hiccups, but you know what? We got through it, so great job. This unique exercise was an unbelievable display of professionalism and dedication to ENA, and we couldn't have done it without all of you. I also do want to call a shout out to the amazing technical crew that's standing in front of me here and that's beside me. Thank you for all your hard work. We definitely appreciate it, so thank you. So it's the guys behind the scenes and that you can't see, so thank you guys, I appreciate it. So delegates, alternate delegates, and ENA past presidents must complete a post-General Assembly evaluation to receive your certificate of service. An email will be sent to you later this week to complete the evaluation in order for you to receive your certificate. While the work of the General Assembly is complete, I encourage everyone to join ENA this week for EN20X, a virtual experience. You've mastered the virtual realm today, so you'll be primed to take part in what will be a dynamic and engaging 3 days of emergency nursing education. For just $100, you're getting 60 C&Es plus on-demand access for every session for 3 months. All of that plus the Experience Hall, 5 parties in 1 night as part of the 50 Carat Gold Anniversary celebration on Wednesday, and much, much more through Friday. Of course, we all wish we could be together in Las Vegas right now, but the difficult landscape of 2020 hasn't prevented ENA or you from doing what we do best. It has truly been an honor to lead ENA through this challenge, and I look forward to all of us reuniting in Orlando in a year from now. But before also, please make sure that you are getting your votes out for our elections. So voting does end at 5 p.m. on Central Time, so please make sure that you're voting. Again, thank you again for all your work today. At this time, with no further business to come before the Assembly, I declare the 2020 ENA General Assembly adjourned.